Hi guys, I'm here to talk to you about the economic debt crisis of Latin America. And I'm sure as soon as you heard that title, you were probably thinking, I don't want to learn about this, and why should I have to learn about this? But the truth is, you should want to learn about it, and you do have to learn about it. That's because once I inform you about this problem, then you can go and tell all your friends about this problem. And then once everybody is educated on something that affected so many lives, then we can prevent it from happening in the future again. And maybe if the United States had done more research on the economic debt crisis of Latin America, then maybe we wouldn't be in this recession that we are in now. So pay attention. This crisis started in the beginning of the 1980s, and I guess you could say a summary sentence of the economic debt crisis of Latin America is that Latin American and Caribbean countries experienced lower standards of living and saw foreign investment and trade decrease. And this crisis was mainly caused by one thing, and that was major drop in prices of Latin America's main exports, and the prices had gotten so low that they were lower than they had been in decades. And Latin America's main exports had been copper, beef, sugar, tin, and grain, and those are a lot of exports to be losing so much money in, which probably goes to show why the crisis got as bad as it did. And obviously, with an economic debt crisis, there are going to be negative effects, but with this one, surprisingly, there were some positive effects, so I'm going to tell you those first because positive is always better. Demographic, regional managers, and educational changes had been changing the population in many Latin American countries for a while now, and they had actually made a better educated and more sophisticated working force, and because that happened, more women started working, which was kind of a breakthrough for women, and also more workers were having less children, which was good all around, even for the company, because then the workers would be having to spend less time with their children and could spend more time working. And it also helped the family because think about it this way. If there's a family with a mom, a dad, and 2 children, and a mom and dad and 5 children, and in both the families only the moms work, and in this family the mom can support for herself, her husband, and her 2 children, but in this family the mom can only support for herself, her husband, and 2 out of 5 of her children, then this family is going to be better off even though they might have less kids to love. But in this family, if the 5 of the children have to share the food that only 2 children really should be getting, then these children are going to be malnourished, and it would just be better to have less children so that each child could be treated fairly and fed well and have enough clothes to wear. So it was actually helping the families out too. And also there was a decrease in the price of oil, which actually helped 7 debtor countries gain $2 billion to pay off their debt, which seems like a lot to us because personally I don't know anybody with that type of money. But to pay off a debt of a whole continent, it's not a lot. But of course, it's still progress, and progress is always good. And of course, with an economic debt crisis, there are going to be negative effects. But in my opinion, all negative effects of economic debt crises are normally the same. And that's businesses close down, families can't afford their home, they can't afford money for food, and they can't even afford their children, so they send them off to live with relatives, stuff like that. And even though it might be the same for about every economic debt crisis, there's still extremely serious problems that needed to be addressed. So once countries started saying, we can't live in these situations, we need to start paying off our debt, they did. And I give a lot of credit to Peru because by January of 1986, Peru had actually paid off about 14% of its trade income. And that's still good, but even though it seems like a lot to us, it was actually less than about half of what was due. But they had made great progress, so I give them props for that. And by March 23rd, 1986, Latin America's foreign debt had reached $186 billion. So I'm sure that this country was thinking, okay, we're not going to be able to get out of this debt for 30 more years. I know if I was a citizen, that is what I would be thinking. But lucky for them, the United States of America came to save the day with Brady bonds And Brady bonds were repackaged securities created by Nicholas Brady, who was an ex-U.S. Treasury Secretary. And the Brady bonds were really what saved Latin America and brought them out of their economic debt crisis. So they really should be thanking us. And as you can see, this is a serious topic, and thankfully it got resolved.